Hey everyone, welcome to a Goody Reader video. My name is Michael.
This is Peter.
Today we're reviewing the Onyx Boox Max Carta.
Yes.
This is the second generation Onyx Boox Max. The original one had lower PPI and it had an e-ink Mobius screen. This has Carta. This is using a 1 GHz Freescale IMX6 processor. It has 1 gig of RAM, 16 gigs of internal storage. It does have an SD card that you can expand up to 32. Resolution is 2200 by 1650, which is 207 DPI. It has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, a 4100 milliamp battery, which will give you about 20 days of standby mode. And if you're using it regularly, you'll get about like less than a week or so. It has Android 4.0 and it has another, quite a number of exciting features, but we'll show you them instead of talking about them.
So looking at the device head on, you'll notice it does look different than a couple other 13.3s on the market. You have some physical buttons down here, so it looks like you have a more button, a left, right, and a back button. You have the strap on the side. The Sony DPT RP1 uses the magnet. This is from the first generation Sony kind of style. Nothing on the left side, nothing on the right side, and the top is clean as well. Everything happens down below here, so we'll show you this. So what we have here is the microphone, the micro SD card slot, the micro USB, 3.5mm headphone jack, and the power button. If you go over to the back, you have a single speaker on the bottom left corner. On the stylus here, you have the stylus nib at the top. You have the eraser at the back. You can write like that. And for future upgrades, we have a secondary button that has yet to be implemented.
This stylus is electromagnetic and it only works with the Onyx Boox Max Carta. It doesn't have a touchscreen layer. It only can be interacted with via a stylus. So you don't want to lose it because this device only comes with a single stylus.
And no other stylus from any other device will work on this. It's pretty much just the one that comes included with the device.
Alright, so you notice that he's tapping the top left-hand corner, which is like a home button.
That's correct.
There's also like battery and things. You can swipe down from like the top to get like Android-y things here, so apps that you installed, Wi-Fi networks, sound, whether you want to increase or decrease the volume, which is good if you're listening to music and audiobooks and stuff like that. There are in the top right-hand corner a number of options here. You can search.
You also see in the top here you can change it from regular mode to A2 mode, and this has been on a couple other previous iterations of Onyx devices. Basically what it does is it desaturates the image, makes it a lower quality, so everything will move faster.
Let's take a look at the UI. We pointed out, the features at the top and stuff, but what's the deal with library and storage and everything like that?
So library is anything that you've either downloaded from certain markets or just kind of side-loaded in via the USB cable. So you see we have a user guide, a PDF of our kind of benchmark testing for the Dungeons Master Guide, and an EPUB book.
Storage, it's more or less like a file management browser.
Right.
Your
directories.
Right.
Yeah.
So SD card and internal memory and things like that. This is your app menu. This e-reader does have the Google Play Market on here where you can download apps. You can see that it takes a while.
Little bit, yeah. A couple seconds.
But these are mostly the default apps. We did install Audible and the Good e-reader App Store for e-ink, and later on in the video we'll show you performance, Google Play versus the e-ink version of our own Android market.
That's right. Settings menu is the Android settings where you can change languages, system information, Wi-Fi networks, any extensions you download, Bluetooth, pretty much all the standard kind of things you'd find on an Android device.
Let's take a look at note-taking because this is pretty well why you're buying this device for the most part.
Pretty much. So we're going to do a blank page here with some lines on it. Sometimes the device isn't as responsive as you'd like it to be. So if you're asking whether you can rest your hand on it, of course you can, because there is no touch layer on this device. You're not gonna mess anything up. So by default you can write. It's very responsive. It's very quick. Like, there's very little lag. It's super quick.
Now a stylus has an eraser on the top.
The eraser we found at times works extremely well or not at all. You see it erased up there, and I didn't even touch that. So it's kind of a hit or miss, but you know, worry not. There is another option here. You can go down to the eraser button, and you can either clear the entire page, or you can click that and erase individually, which once again kind of may or may not function there. So the drawing experience is actually quite good. The eraser experience is a little bit incomplete, I find.
This model allows you to draw shapes.
Yes.
Not only can you draw shapes within the note-taking app, but when you're actually editing PDF files, you can also draw shapes.
Right. So you can make triangles, circles, and squares and such. So that's very nice for people that do graphing and stuff like that. We're going to stick on pencil because we're going to show you something here. You can choose different thicknesses. It's a little bit unresponsive. We'll just try to be patient. You can choose thicknesses. Because this stylus actually doesn't have sensitivity levels, whether you press really hard or really light, it's going to produce the same thickness of line. So make sure you select your thickness in the beginning.
Now, one has to wonder, there's a picture of a t-shirt here.
Yeah.
What exactly does this do, Peter?
We were opening it up and Michael saw that, was like, oh cool, it's backgrounds, and then he's like, why is it a t-shirt? And we don't really know why it's a t-shirt, but it's kind of cool because you have lots of different backgrounds. For example, musical scores. You can write your little, I don't know how to do
nomenclature,
treble clefs and stuff, but you can make music effectively. I mean, it's very easy, it's very nice, and like I said, the drawing experience is actually very, very high quality, and it's very responsive. So it takes a little bit to load the book. Once we're in, and you can turn pages with the page turn buttons on the bottom or the stylus. You can't use your fingers because, again, there's no touch layer. You can long press on a word and that will allow you to highlight that. You can click in the center to, when you're highlighting, you actually have to either X out or continue, otherwise it won't know what you're doing. So you can change the fonts.
Yeah, these are all Android apps, so you have varying levels of responsiveness.
Right. You can change the margins, the fonts, the spacing, the font type, so that gives you a little bit of flexibility. E-reading experience is it's good in its rawest form, but it's very interrupted by any time you want to change anything. It seems to really not want to do it.
If you're a reader, you'll probably just take advantage of the manual page turn keys, because I doubt you really want to be interacting with it, with the stylus to turn pages. That's going to get old really fast.
Absolutely.
The standard PDF that we always open on every single e-reader is the Dungeons Master's Guide. Right. It's 200 megs. It really is a great benchmark to determine if there's any bottlenecks, how an e-reader handles the PDF rendering engine, and so on. Because the Onyx doesn't really have a native PDF reader, they're more or less relying on apps. We're pretty well using the stock app that they have here in order to determine it. Now, we are in A2 mode right now.
Right.
So in terms of the clarity, it's pretty clear. It's a little bit fuzzy.
It's okay, but I think for some things it's necessary, because if you had it off, it would just take forever to turn a page.
Right, so let's do that.
Yeah.
So we've turned it off and we have to wait for a second. Now,
yeah, it's noticeably 2 times longer to turn a page.
Yeah.
And I swiped it again and it didn't register whether I did it. So you can tap in the center a couple times, and that'll allow you to increase, decrease font sizes, basically just crunching the whole thing. Reflowing, I'm not going to do that. That takes a long time. What it'll do is wipe away all the images and just leave the text. You can change contrast. You can do navigation, left to right, right to left. There is no pinch and zoom, we might add, because once again, there's no touch layer. So you're pretty much stuck with the the image that you see on the full screen here. It is adequate because it's a very large screen, so you don't really have to pinch and zoom, but that option doesn't exist.
So this is Google Play. We've logged in. We're just gonna like show you how responsive like the App Store is in terms of like browsing around, clicking, downloading, and things like that. So you can see it's kind of glitchy. So once you're logged in, just like, you know, you can install apps. 16 gigs of memory is more than enough for most of your apps.
This is the keyboard experience on this. You have everything you need. It's tab, secondary character, shift. You can install your own keyboards as well because it is running Android.
So this is a good e-reader app store, the world's first app store designed for e-ink. You click on an app and there's really no animations or anything. You can see it instantly loaded up.
Right.
So it's one-click downloads. You don't even need to like sign in or like, you know, register unlike Google Play, which you need like a Google account and stuff like that. So you can check out various categories. You can see that it instantly loads. You can go to our home screen.
All the images load.
It's a carousel. Everything instantly loads. So our app store is mainly geared towards like digital content, like ebooks, e-reading apps, magazines, newspapers, and things like that. So we do have an audio section as well for, you know, devices such as this that actually have a 3.5mm headphone jack and speaker. So we've showed you everything but the audio functionality. Now we can't really give you a sense of the audio quality with a 3.5mm headphone jack when you're listening to speakers, like, you know, stereo speakers. So we're going to have to rely on a single speaker that is on the back of the device. We'll see how loud it goes. Now, audio is jacked to the max, so we're just going to play a free sample.
The players. Many gods and goddesses are named in Norse mythology. You'll meet quite a few of them in these pages. Most of the stories we have, however, concern two gods, Odin.
Yeah, I mean, it has speaker, and so this is only 13.3 speaker.
Yeah.
This is only 13.3 e-reader that I'm aware of that's out there that actually has a speaker and a 3.5mm headphone jack. So it has some things going for it. Now let's wrap up. Peter, what are the things that you like and don't like about this device?
I love the writing experience. It's fantastic. It's responsive. It's crisp. It works really well. Erasing is a completely different story. It doesn't work very well. You don't know if you've done it. It's not accurate. You can't accurately erase things that you've written. If you're writing a musical score, you erase over here and magically something else erases. Its native base apps are not very good for PDFs, books, or anything. I would recommend that you stay away from the stock experience and download things off of the Good e-Reader App Store or Google Play and get things that actually work. There's no touch layer, and that prevents you from using it if you lose your stylus, and you can't use it with any other stylus. It doesn't work.
I agree with you, Peter, that the note-taking experience is probably the best thing about this device. Browsing around the interface, the library, the settings menu, the web browser, the applications menu, everything's fast. But once you actually start loading up apps, you really kind of notice the drawback. And you do have A2 mode, which is a trade-off with performance versus image quality and clarity. I found that editing a PDF file, we didn't show you this on camera because it's abysmal, and we tried a various number of apps. None of them seem to work properly, so this really isn't a good PDF editor in terms of performance, the latency, and things like that. You probably want to rely on the note-taking app. The e-reading experience is pretty solid if you take into account the manual page turn keys. They're really like that. But overall, I found that things take too long to load on this, and there's been times where we've clicked on a book and it loads up in a completely other book. We had to do a manual page refresh in order to open up the book that we wanted. It's just unresponsive in general, and I had really high hopes for this, but I feel kind of let down.